Well, hello everyone. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. I'm really excited to share with you all the story behind the music video, The End Begins. I felt it was necessary for me to do a video on this music video because to kind of explain, like, why did you just release this out of nowhere? Why is the footage from 3.5 years ago? And why did it take you so long? I want to answer all these questions today. So, I want to first start off by giving a disclaimer here. This is all to the best of my memory. I started writing the song, I believe, in 2012, which was 6 years ago. My memory just is not crystal clear on the order of events, events that happen. So if I misquote or I get dates wrong, I do apologize, but it's to the best of my memory. So, and I'd like to do this video now as opposed to waiting 6 more years, because then my memory really would be bad, I feel like. So here it goes. So I want to start with the early stages of the song. The End Begins was inspired by Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. Crazy Train was the first song I ever learned on guitar, and I'll just get out my guitar and show you how it's similar. Now, The End Begins was also the first song that I ever wrote on guitar. It's the first song I ever tried to write. I was actually at my cousin's house, and I remember it was late, and we were sitting watching TV. I can't even remember what movie we were watching, but I was sitting there, I think it was with this guitar, and I was sitting there, and I remember laying there, and I remember Crazy Train goes like this. Everybody knows, that knows Ozzy Osbourne. It's like, and then it goes. All right. So The End Begins goes like this. Okay, so starts on that G flat or F sharp, whichever one you want to call it. Crazy Train does. And then The End Begins starts on a G, which is right below it, and it goes. See, that's Crazy Train, just half step down. See that? So I remember I was sitting on my cousin's couch, like half asleep, and I was going. And as soon as I did that, I was like, whoa, that's really good. I need to write a song like that. So I did. So that's how I started writing the song. The original title was Curtis's Song, because it was the first song I ever wrote, so I called it Curtis's Song. And then I ended up changing the lyrics changing the title of the song as I wrote the lyrics and stuff. I changed the title to When It's Over. And the original lyrics are very dark. They're very sad, and they're very morbid, even. And you can tell, I didn't change the beginning originally, from the original song until the one that I released, that I did 3 years ago and then released just now, a few weeks ago. I look into myself, but all that's left is memories, locking the emotions I'm afraid. The original song was like the first verse, only it carried through the whole song. The whole song was dark, like that kind of feel. But I ended up changing that, so I'll get on to that. Now, you might be wondering why in the thumbnail I have these two E's, one's like this and the other one's flipped around, and then there's a infinity sign in the middle. Why even call the song The End Begins? Like, The End Begins, that's not even in the, it's not even a lyric in the song. Like, why even call it The End Begins? Well, when I was in high school, me and a few friends of mine, we got together and we played music together a lot. And so we tried to think of band names, like what we were going to call our band. And we had different names going on, and And I just started thinking about The End Begins for some reason. It came to my mind. I don't even remember how The End Begins like came in my mind. But I started thinking about it and I thought, The End Begins, that sounds like a really cool band name. So I remember sitting in class at Tazewell High School. Instead of listening to the teacher, I was drawing a logo for the band name. And I'll go ahead and show it now. It's on my guitar case. I was sitting in class and I noticed that the and end, the ended with an E and end started with an E. And I thought, well, it'd be cool if I flip the E around and make it, flip around and then put an infinity sign in the middle of it and call it The End. The End Begins, and then the logo would just be the two E's. And I thought that was the coolest. I was just amazed. I was just so happy with the logo and the band name. And I put the infinity sign in the middle of it because the end begins. It's like infinity. The end begins. It's kind of like saying there's not really a beginning to the end. It's infinite. So that was kind of my thinking behind it, and I really liked it. I was very fond of it. And I drew it on my guitar case, I drew it on my song folder, and that was my band name. I loved The End Begins. But for some reason my friends that were in the band they weren't very fond of it. And I don't think they would mind me saying that, now, looking back, even though that was years ago. It's not that they didn't like it, but I don't think they thought it was very fitting, which is okay, that's fine. That's just what I had in mind. And I remember everyone, we couldn't settle on a band name. I remember Timmy had Holding Our Hopes was a good, which I like that band name, but I was just so stuck on The End Begins. I loved it so much that I was like, it needs to be The End Begins. I remember we did a thing in Burke's Garden. We called ourselves In These Streets.
This is just gonna be an instrumental, but it'll be alright.
I wrote it.
Yeah, old Curtis Ingram wrote this one, so here you go.
Friend Trevor, he wasn't in the band, but he was like, man, you ought to call the band Nothing Will Remain, NWR, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I was always stuck on The End Begins. I just really liked The End Begins. We just kind of couldn't settle on that, which is cool. I mean, that was kind of funny. Kind of funny looking back on it now. So we recorded some music. I remember we recorded a cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana and Nightmare by Avenged Sevenfold. So that's pretty cool that we got to record those. And so that's kind of the reason behind The End Begins and why I decided to call the song. I ended up changing it. So originally, keep in mind, it was Curtis's song, When It's Over, and then I changed it to The End Begins, because then at the point in 2015 when I changed the lyrics again, I looked back and remembered, I liked my band name, The End Begins, so I'll just call the name of the song The End Begins. So that's why I did that. Next thing I want to talk about is the revisions to the song. The original song, it did not have a solo, a post-chorus riff. This thing, it didn't have that. It just kind of went back into which is it's kind of monotonous and kind of boring, I thought. So next thing I added was a bridge, and I thought it needed a bridge and then the solo part that I mentioned. And this is when I changed the lyrics from being completely dark to starting off dark and then having a Christian meaning. Alright, so I recorded the audio that is on YouTube in 2015, in early 2015. I believe it was January, but it could be as early as November of 2014. I just can't remember, but by this point in time, by 2014, the end of 2014, I had started Southwest Community College, and I started writing Christian music. I started writing a bunch and I had 12 songs of Christian music, and I also had The End Begins, and which it was called When It's Over at this point. And I was like, well, I made this Christian album. Why don't I make the first track When It's Over? Why don't I change that to a Christian meaning so it'll match all the other songs? Even though The End Begins, or When It's Over, was much heavier, much more distorted guitar, and the other ones, they're not like that. But I still wanted to put that. I still wanted to make an album and then copyright it. So like Unimaginable Love and I'll Never Fail You, which are on my channel, and Now the End Begins, they're all copyrighted. Like I paid to have them legally copyrighted in 2015. And I plan on, I want to release more of that album, and put it on YouTube, kind of get it out there for you all. For some reason I was a little embarrassed of the music, but now that a couple of years have passed, I'm going back and I'm listening to the music and I'm like, this is actually really good stuff. I want to try to release some more. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to release some more of my original stuff. So I finished recording the album, beginning with The End Begins, which is kind of cool, beginning with the end. And then Unimaginable Love and songs like that I've already released, plus more that I want to release, are on that album and copyrighted. So then I filmed the music video. Now this is going to get into answering the question of why I waited 3 years to release this. Okay, I filmed the video in May of 2015, as I mentioned. It was the first music video that I ever attempted to do. I think at this point I've done 32 covers and 10 original music videos. So that's a total of like 42 music videos that I've done, including The End Begins. So The End Begins was the first one that I ever tried to do. Needless to say, I was very inexperienced, and I've learned now that when you do a music video, if you want a guitar scene, if you want to do a guitar track, you play it all the way through. That way you have that scene all the way through the whole song. Don't do on the, like for instance, in The End Begins case, don't do just the bridge on the bridge or on the dam or whatever in Lincolnshire. Don't do just verse 1 on this rock or verse 2 over here. If you're going to do verse 1, do the whole song. That way you have that scene for the whole song that you can pick from, just in case you mess up or you need to edit out. That's just something that I've learned. I didn't know that at that time, so I recorded a lot. I was like, okay, verse 1 here, verse 2 here, verse 3. I was very sporadic with my recording. I ended up with a lot more footage than what I needed. And in the editing process, of course, it was just a lot of footage to sort through, and it was a lot, and it was hard for me, with lacking the experience that I have now. It was just hard for me to sort through all that footage and figure out how I wanted to do it, and I got extremely frustrated with what I had, so I just kind of scrapped it. And Dad was a great help. He filmed the whole music video for me. My dad did. He was great. He also filmed Heart of Gold, and he's filmed a lot of my music videos. My dad has. One Last Breath. But I'm getting to where now I kind of do it on my own, or I get somebody else to help me with it. So just kind of give my dad a break, because he's filmed me my whole life. Alright, so I've got a script here so I don't lose my train of thought. Okay, another thing that happened was I had, for the one day of filming, I had my family with me. My Uncle Jerry even came in from Illinois. He's the one, if you watch the trailer, he's the one that at the beginning he was joking around and he said,
"Hey Aaron, when you're done doing covers, maybe you can write your own stuff."
So I thought that was pretty cool. So I became very impatient in the editing process because there's so much footage that I needed, but there was also footage that I felt like I needed and didn't have. And I didn't have a lot of experience, and I got very frustrated with the whole thing, with the whole song and the music video. I just became very frustrated with it. Another thing that happens was, so I mentioned my family came along, and my uncle and stuff, and we ended up doing more goofing off than we did actual filming.
Oh gosh! Uncle Jerry! Uncle Jerry! You're in the picture!
I also got a tad impatient with them because of all the goofing off, and then I started goofing off with them too, but I became a tad impatient with it, and you can see that. Well, let's just take a moment and appreciate right now how immature I was 3.5 years ago. So go ahead.
What are you doing? Don't sit down. I don't want it right there. Oh, what? You're not understanding what I want. Why is it not fast forwarding? Stay behind top. Stay right behind him. You understand? I can't remember the freaking words. So it's the little bitty things that just make me mad. See, shut up. God, I can't do it with you yelling at me. You're struggling, ain't you?
Oh, I am. I really
I
am.
can tell you are. You do it now. You can't do it this time because you messed up. You can't do it this time. You can't do it this time. I'm not doing it this time.
And scene.
Yeah. We all ain't been good our whole pretty little lives, as my pastor says. So I quit working on it. I quit working on the music video. I just cut. I think, as you can tell from the, I guess if you want to call it the bloopers that I just showed, as you can tell, my frustration with it, even in filming, that was just in the filming aspect of it, was pretty high. In the editing suite, then I began getting very impatient with it. I did. So I just scrapped it. I forgot all about it. I just let it go. I was like, you know what? I'm chalking it up as a lesson learned. I just didn't. I let it go, and I moved on. And that was May of 2015. I think I did Heart of Gold in October. 5 months later, I did Heart of Gold. And so Heart of Gold was my first official music video that I released. But little did everyone know that I tried doing The End Begins 5 months earlier. But Heart of Gold was great. I learned with Heart of Gold, when you do a scene, do it all the way through. And, that's part of the reason why Heart of Gold turned out so well. And I had my dad helping me, and it was very good. From Heart of Gold onward, I began learning and getting better with my editing ability and making music videos and videos in general. Yeah, if you're a filmmaker and you get discouraged at first, and if you even have to scrap the first thing that you do, do it. If that's what you have to do, it's important. Just don't give up if it's what you love. I love making videos, so I think it's important. Just don't get discouraged. Or if you get discouraged, if you have to scrap it, that's fine. Maybe you'll come back to it 3.5 years later, like I did. And after 40 music videos, I finally came back to it, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to tackle The End Begins. And I did, and I sifted through all of those just mountains of footage, because I had so much. And I've got to get to the part where I had trouble finding the footage because it was 3 years ago. Let me get to that. So I didn't even think about that footage until about 3 months ago, when Dad and I were looking through some of his old pictures on his computer, and I was like, and then I remembered, I was like, hey, I did start The End Begins, and as I told you, I've been listening to my music, and I listened to The End Begins, and I was like, you know what, that was actually a pretty good song. I should release it. I should find the old footage and edit it and release it. That'd be pretty cool. Then I tried looking for the footage. I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find the footage. I looked on all the computers that I had, all the hard drives that I knew to look on from 2015. I knew it was in 2015. I couldn't even remember what month it was in. And then as time went on, I figured it was probably May or June. It was in the summer, I thought. So Dad and I looked for the footage for weeks and could not find it anywhere. We could not find the footage anywhere for The End Begins. And so, sadly, I just kind of gave up. I was like, gosh, that sucks. I'd really like to do it. And then Dad got a Google Home. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like Alexa. And Dad got one of the, Dad likes that tech savvy stuff. So he got it, and it displays when it's sleeping, it displays pictures from the cloud. So it started displaying pictures, like old pictures that I hadn't seen in years. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I'd swipe through them. And then I remember one day I came across a picture, and I'll show it now. This picture. I saw this come up on the Google Home, and I was like, that's from that day. And I remember that was from the day of The End Begins. And I was like, we gotta find out what date that was. So Dad and I I was like, Dad, where are these pictures coming from? He's like, they're in the cloud. And I was like, well, let's look in the cloud and see if we can find it there, because there's the one place that we never thought to look, the cloud. And that's where the footage was. It was in the cloud. So thank God for the cloud. That's where the footage was. So I started editing. I sifted through the footage. Again, all the experience that I have editing videos and made it easy. It made it much easier. I worked much more efficiently, and I got the footage sifted through, put together, and I was very happy with the end result. Also, the fact that it was a trip down memory lane from 3.5 years ago made it not frustrating anymore. I was like, oh, this is fun. It was cool. I didn't mind. The frustration that I felt 3.5 years ago was gone. You know, I was sifting through it now. I was like, that's just really cool. It was really cool to go back and see all that, and then to put it together. And so now I'm super happy with it. I think now I think the video is better than what it would have been 3.5 years ago if I would have finished it then. In conclusion, The End Begins started in 2012 on my cousin's couch with me just doing that little riff, just sitting there kind of, you know, and then I was like, and I just really liked it. And over the years, over the 3 years before I recorded it, it changed a lot, and the lyrics changed a lot, and ended up with a guitar solo, and really happy with it. Hope you all enjoyed this video, kind of explaining the story behind it, and kind of the name, where I got the name from, and where, like, the story of the song. I felt it was necessary to do this video and kind of explain all that. So, hope you all enjoyed it. If you gain anything from this video, persevere. If you like making videos, writing music, photography, tying knots, sewing, I don't care what it is, I think we can all gain from this video, from the story of this song, that at first it's not going to be good, you know. It's gonna be kind of mediocre, you know. But the more that you work at something, the better you get. And I think that's what happened here, is I just kept working, and I feel like I got better. So hope you all can gain at least that from this video. Be sure to share this video, like, subscribe if you haven't already, and you all have a wonderful week, and God bless.